Today we are diving into a huge topic, the idea of a borderless Africa, specifically in the South, because that's home. So let's start there. In this video, I'm going to cover 3 major areas that I think will be really positively impacted by this idea. Essentially, the ordinary person, me and you, businesses, and overall standards and expectations. Now, this topic, me right now, is just scratching a very huge surface, but at least let's give it a go. Let's start there. I really want this channel, or a part of this channel, to be about tabling matters, food for thought, or at the very least a conversation starter. Now, what do I not mean by borderless? Let's make it very clear that when I say a borderless Africa, I do not mean the end of immigration control. There are clearly very upset people, and rightly so, about the lack of immigration controls in their countries. I see you guys in my comments. I see you and I feel you. But honestly, I believe you're angry. You're directing your anger in the wrong place and towards the wrong people. The real issue is not the immigrant, it's your government. The immigrant is simply an opportunity taker. You need to be talking to your government. You need to be talking to your peoples, your unions, your parties. That's all I will say about that for now. So a borderless Africa doesn't have to mean chaos. If the right policies are in place, we can have both open borders and protection. Just make sure you are in the room when they're shaping up the laws and the conditions, so that you are happy and the person coming in is also looked after. One of the challenges we have as Africans is we react to policies, but we don't make ourselves present when bills are being passed, when bills are being presented. We use our numbers to become keyboard warriors and not action takers. That's a whole video in itself, but I honestly think that's where we need to start. I'm a big preacher of there is nothing new under the sun. There is no need to pave a new road when one has already been paved in history or through history. We've seen this model work before. A good example is the European Union. They created the Schengen visa, or the Schengen areas. These are areas that allow free movement across 27 European countries, and these 27 countries would use the euro as their currency as well, so they have the one currency that they're using. People can travel, they can live, they can work across these 27 borders without lengthy or expensive immigration processes. Don't get me wrong, an emphasis on without lengthy, not without completely. That's very important for us to realize that there are still rules and policies in place when you have an open border, and mostly those rules are to protect you, the local, and you, the local business. Just like the EU, a borderless Africa doesn't have to mean no immigration control. It just means simplified movements and collaborations, mainly targeted at unlocking opportunities, bigger opportunities. With the right policies, we can open our borders without compromising on security. One thing I have to say and get off my chest is, if your job or your business can be taken by a foreigner, that job was never safe to begin with. If your concerns are immigrants are coming in to take our jobs, that is deeply hard to accept, but you need to realize our future is going to be less kind and less considerate when it comes to jobs, when it comes to opportunities. Okay, you're gonna need to be super creative about how you are putting yourself out there and how you are making yourself available or positioning yourself to be in the right place, right time, for the right opportunity for you. Believe me, immigrants are the least of your worries. Let's actually get into why you clicked on this video, the benefits. The number one thing I have is the benefits for you and me. And the best example I could find close to home is ECOWAS. ECOWAS stands for Economic Community of Western African States. Now, this means people in Ghana, in Nigeria, and Senegal. Let me know if there's more than these 3 countries, but that's what I could find through my research, that basically these 3 countries can travel, they can work freely across these 3 borders. Again, let me know in the comments if there's more than 3 countries partaking in ECOWAS. Basically, their horizon has been widened. It just widens the land of their opportunities. This is not me saying ECOWAS doesn't have their problems and ECOWAS couldn't be better. It's more that the idea of ECOWAS, the concept, is really what we need to scrutinize and get behind, because some good can really come of that. The idea of an open, leveled playing field, it will challenge your game for yourself and for your community. And this is not just about competition. You need to see numbers as opportunities to collaborate. We need to start accepting the power in our numbers as Africans, as Southern Africans as a whole. My second point on the list is the benefit to businesses. It's really simple. The more people means the more eyeballs, which in turn could mean for you more customers, which obviously means more money. I know a number of people who had to shut down businesses, and some of them even go back to the working world, to be an employee as opposed to an employer when Britain left the EU, for example. The relevance being the cost of doing business is much higher, almost non-profitable when you're dealing with small numbers, and especially when the average African can only afford a certain price bracket. But when you have more customers, when you order in bulk, for example, you have more to play with your price range. You're just simply widening your playground for both small, medium, large businesses to benefit. Think about it. If businesses can move freely, expand freely, collaborate without unnecessary restrictions, success is inevitable. Let me add here, for those of you who think closing your borders will solve your unemployment issues or your lack of creativity or your lack of resources or security problems, just realize that that's just a very small piece of the puzzle. The internet is becoming a real leveler. I made a video about Starlink moving into the southern parts of Africa. A lot of our stagnations has been due to lack of stable internet, really. The internet is what is making the world one big place. And with the introduction of Starlink, that's a whole video that if you want to watch that, check it out on my channel. It's really going to be a leveler for everyone. So that's something you really need to start thinking about, because the local person is no longer going to be your problem, really, quite frankly. Anyway, back onto my 3 points. We're tackling businesses, the benefits to businesses when we achieve a borderless Africa. Take, for example, the US. It's made up of 50 states. Each one has their rules and how they want to operate, which are respected and observed. They also have their own ways of doing things, their cultures, their communities. But the main thing being, businesses can operate almost seamlessly across the borders as long as you follow what has been set as protocol. Imagine if African businesses had the same level of freedom to scale across borders without costly tariffs, costly visas. You can have a visa, but let it be reasonable. Let it have the local person in mind, and without the red tape. There's certain countries that unless you know somebody inside to do something for you, things won't move, okay? Or just the fear alone of approaching local authorities cripples people. And this red tape is our biggest problem, aka tip me, aka buy me a drink, aka bribe. Really, it's not just about local businesses as well. When any collective community shows they have sense, their sense is going to bring numbers that make sense, and that will attract foreign investors. What do investors do? They bring money, they inject money, because ultimately what they're interested in is profit. They couldn't care less about your well-being, about your opinion, about your culture. They don't care. They want to make money, but you can benefit and make sure you put terms that are favorable to you, since you've got the numbers, the bargaining power when that investor injects cash in your business to boost your scale and quality and employment levels as well. Just as a side note on employment and quality, okay? Not all of us are born to be CEOs. I honestly believe the reason why we lack quality is our rush to become CEOs when Actually, we just need to master what we're doing and actually be content being a worker who specializes in what they specialize in. Not everybody needs or must have that title, business owner or CEO or director. It's not for everyone. I do find it hilarious that the loudest people typically don't even watch the entire video, but they have the most emotional response with no facts or logic. But anyway, I guess opinions they're free. My third and last point is standards and expectations. Now, I'm not saying we're ready. I am not saying by no means we are ready right now for free movement, but we need to realize and accept standardization is so powerful and we need to work towards that. In my video about South Africa and Nigeria, many of you were so unhappy with that comparison, but if we are honest enough to accept, we are measured based on how easy is it for somebody from somewhere else visiting to arrive and seamlessly do whatever it is they want to do in your country. Okay, it be business, it be touring, anything, working remotely, anything. One thing that has held Africa back is the lack of standardization. I'm not saying become vanilla, I'm not saying whitewash ourselves, but overall and more than ever across borders, we need to become standardized. And by standardized, it's not copy and paste, it's not copycatting, it's high quality ways of operating that are respectable and universal. It's not about which country is better than the other. It's about whether somebody can come into your country, any country, and function easily. Can they work easily? Can they trade easily? Can they live without unnecessary higi-haga and worry for their safety? We can learn from unions all around the world if we want to take the good from what has worked from them. Because if we're honest, people, aka investors, aka you, aka Joe Blogs, the tourist, the nomad, just wants to peacefully enjoy their lives. The easier we can make it for them to do just that, the more the merrier. Slightly off topic but relevant. Once heard that Nigeria charges the same visa fees to a foreigner as that foreigner's country would charge a Nigerian. Much of this is largely due to pride, which is fair enough, but at the end of the day, it hurts the local. When I say local, I look at myself as a local in terms of fellow African. Although I do not have my African citizenship right now, although I'm working on that. I was born in Africa and many of us have migrated for better greener pastures, and we got to a point where you couldn't have dual nationality. And so when you're going back home, you're paying for visas, and sometimes these visas are so expensive. Certainly was so it was very costly for me and my humble coin, just humbly visiting a country out of love, out of community. But I faced really, really expensive costs just because the country has chosen to operate that way. But it hasn't considered, what about the fellow black person, the fellow African who just wants to come and enjoy the country? If I was in the seat of power, I would change it and say, if you're coming here to do business and as a business of a particular size, this is what you need to pay for the visa. If it's really about pride as an African country, as an African people, I would go as far as say, if you are originally from Africa, from an African descent, and you're visiting as a tourist, come for free. Anyway, my last point is the worry about culture and the worry on stability. A lot of people are concerned when it comes to a borderless Africa or a borderless Southern Africa, the loss of cultural richness. But the thing for me is culture isn't tied to which side of a line in the sand you're on. For me, culture is from the heart. It's the way you live, the way you love, and the way you showcase without judgment and without hate. I'm going to stop there. I've talked too much. I'm going to stop there. I will see you guys in the comments. In the meantime, stay safe.